Hi everybody, welcome back to Critical Mass. Today we have a topic that we're going to talk about. What is a modern classic and what movies do we think are modern classics? And to let's narrow it down to what we consider what a modern classic is. Paul, give us your definition.
So it's not black and white. We're not going back to Hollywood golden era. It's when we were all teenagers, Mark, Don, and I, post 1990. So being a teenager, we can look at a movie and say, wow, this stands above all other movies and will live long into the future. That's what we're going by.
All right, well, why don't you start us off? Maybe we're gonna give each our two. Give us one that you think is a modern classic.
Okay, so post 1990, we don't have the easy picks like Back to the Future or E.T. But this one is going to be one that everybody will agree is just as important now as it was back then. And that's Groundhog Day. Say, what? What do you mean? It's not like one of those movies that, you know, oh, it's so epic, it did everything so brand new. But when people think of a time loop story, what do they say? They say Groundhog Day. And it is a mechanism done in so many different movies and stories, and they always call it the Groundhog Day effect. They weren't the first to use it. It wasn't even a movie that used this device the first time, but Groundhog Day popularized it. And what was so classic about this movie was that it was a comedy, it was a love story, it was a redemption story. It didn't rely on a gimmick to give you this looping device. Like, it wasn't a magic curse or a magic spell. It wasn't like the movie Click, where I think it was a camera or a remote control that paused time or something. They left it an enigma. And I think the biggest thing that resonated with the audience is that the audience could put themselves into Bill Murray's place and say, how would I have dealt with this? Would I have used this for good? Would I have used this for evil? Would I have fixed things? And still to this day, you can go back and watch it because they took out all of the time period references so that it could be watched in any decade.
Okay.
Do you agree?
Right. I think, well, then, yeah. Okay. I agree with what he's saying about, you know, if somebody says, oh, it's the Groundhog Day effect, then automatically you think of the movie, right? And you know what it means. You mean it's a time loop.
Provided you've seen the movie.
I think everybody has.
And if not, they should have.
Okay, and so I'm going to be completely honest with you. I have never seen the first movie that I picked to be a modern day instant classic. However, the movie that I'm talking about has spawned 6 sequels. So it obviously, there's something there. There's something behind it. And I've chosen Sharknado as the first instant classic. And I know I know that it's a spoof movie, and I know it's all satire. However, everybody knows it, and even if you haven't seen it, you know it.
I think you have classic and cult mixed up.
Well, no, because a cult classic.
Put it this way: if you watch Sharknado, you do not come away going, wow, that was a great movie.
You come away from it and say, oh, I can't wait for the sequel, because there's 6 more of them.
Absolutely, you can. You come away saying, what a load of crap.
All right.
I'm going to disagree.
Well, wait. I'm going to see how he tells us how this influenced culture going forward.
Are you kidding? Every time you see a shark in a tornado, you're thinking of this movie.
Touché.
And now you know why Mark wins the debating nearly none of the times. Oh my goodness.
All right, well, what do you got?
All right, well, I'm going to come with a real recent movie then. I'm going to come down with Endgame. And the reason Endgame is a classic movie.
See where you're going, but I don't know.
Put it this way. it had 71 different starring characters they squeezed into one movie. It was a culmination of 21 different movies. It was the first movie to use the de-aging program that is used for Fury in the movie. So it had a lot of firsts in it, and it was the culmination of everything. Not only that, it is the all-time box office movie of all time. It's the first one to beat Avatar
At the
in
same
over
time,
30 years.
I think people have already forgotten about it. As far as it being a classic, I don't know, man.
I don't know. You didn't even see the one that you said is a classic movie. But I bet you saw Endgame.
We're gonna edit that in.
I crushed him on that argument right there.
No, we saw Endgame, and Endgame was a great movie.
Yeah.
It was. I enjoyed it. But as far as a classic goes, I don't think people are gonna.
I bet you in 10 years.
Like, what are you gonna reference from that movie?
Put it this way: in 10 years, when people see the remaining MCU movies and the remaining superhero movies, they're gonna go, "Man, I miss Endgame." I guarantee it.
Well, the reason I think you're right with all the stars being crammed into this movie, but you're also right because this was the finishing touch on a story that spanned so many different connected movies.
21 movies.
That's never been done before.
I know, and I will agree with that. I agree with those points. However, what reference can anyone say, and you automatically think, oh, Endgame?
You can say the movie that capped off 15 years of storytelling.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
You can do this.
I'm saying is, no, people think Q when you do that.
No one thinks Q.
Everybody thinks Q.
No one thinks Q. And also, I'm Iron Man.
Yeah, because everybody does that every day.
It's also the end of Iron Man. Iron Man dies in the movie. Ultimate sacrifice. I mean, there were guys in the theater bawling during that movie when Iron Man died. You don't get guys crying in movies.
Who was crying?
The guy who did the Star Wars trailer video.
Oh. Yeah.
Let's not make fun of that poor guy. He got enough stuff.
No, but also, to your credit, without Iron Man, the original Iron Man movie, there was no Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah.
And this was the finish of his life, touching, like, it spanned everything. And there would be no decade of superhero movies if not for Iron Man in the beginning.
Yeah, no, I get that.
And it's the
what I'm saying is yes, it was a great movie. Yes, it was the culmination of all of the work they've done over the last 15 years. What I'm saying is that I think that now people have seen it and it came to a close. I don't think that movie left us with anything that automatically reminds us of specifically that movie.
Well, it doesn't have all the touches that Sharknado had.
That's true. Like, name me the actor
Which
in Sharknado.
it was a shark. Sharks don't have names.
Hello.
Well, hi.
Name's Bruce.
All right, back to you.
Okay, so my next one is probably my favorite movie of all time, and it is Lord of the Rings. And I don't think anybody can deny that this movie is probably one of the best movies of all time.
The original?
Well, here's the thing about...
See, it's a trilogy.
Here's the thing about Lord of the Rings, is it's not a real trilogy, because it doesn't have a beginning and an end. It's all one continuous story broken up into 3 parts.
Except it was 3 movies, so...
Well, they had to, because nobody's going to watch a 9-hour movie, right? But it is one continuous story. They leave for their adventure, and then they finish their adventure in the last part of the 3rd movie.
Eventually.
USA Today called it the most important movie of the last 25 years. You had the breathtaking New Zealand cinematography. You had a cast of characters that was so perfectly cast. You had the music. The musical score was epic, and it had my favorite singer, Enya. This gave the fantasy genre the dollars that it needed to make all the other big budget fantasy movies that wouldn't have been made because they were all low budget affairs before that. Now, adults can go see fantasy movies and feel good about it.
Different kind of fantasy movie, Don.
Well, I'm trying to think of any fantasy movies since Lord of the Rings that were worth watching.
Well,
The Hobbit certainly wasn't.
No,
Uh,
The Hobbit was terrible.
the one, that stupid space one, was.
but in a way, that just tells you that how much more of a classic that Lord of
Oh,
the Rings
I'm
was.
not arguing with you. Lord of the Rings,
Lord of the Rings
is up
definitely a
there,
classic.
definitely up in the top.
And the
list.
surreal effects that they used for Gollum at that time, that was mind-blowing because Gollum was a character as real as any of the other characters on the screen.
Okay. All right.
Okay. All right.
Mark, let's see if Mark can top Sharknado. I don't know if it can be done. I don't know if it can, like, that was such an epic pick. But we'll see.
The Matrix.
Okay.
The Matrix is a classic movie.
First
That-
one, second one, third one.
The first one.
I think
the,
that was
the second and third
1990.
should not even have been made.
That's true.
Okay. So
And
but
they weren't planned to be made, by the way.
right. So the first Matrix broke all kinds of molds as far as the cinematography and the techniques of filming, even the concept. If somebody asked you now to explain what the Matrix is, yes, now you can articulate it. Back when the Matrix was first released, you really you couldn't articulate it yet because you didn't have a full understanding of what the Matrix was until you've watched the movie a few times and you're like, okay, now I understand. But that's how groundbreaking it was. The life inside of a computer, and you didn't realize you were inside of a computer and you were sort of breaking out of that dynamic.
What I will say about The Matrix is that after that movie, there were so many copycats doing the 360 cinematic filming, so
Right.
where you go around the subject that's hovering in the air. And not only that, but it also became the method where anytime you're talking about going into a computer system, you have all the green code coming down the screen. So that's all originated with The Matrix, and you see it in so many different movies.
That's right. And when you think of the word deja vu now, you automatically think of seeing the cat twice. It's a glitch in the Matrix. At least I do.
Yeah.
That was better than your first one.
Yeah. Yeah, because the first one was horrible. So, cult classic. See, cult classic. Okay. All right, I'm going to... when we were thinking of these, when Paul first mentioned this, he was saying modern classics. So to me, modern was like the next 3 years. So my next one is also over the past 3 years, and I'm going to say Wonder Woman. To me, became an instant classic. And here's why.
Modern classic.
Modern classic. And kind of in an instant classic in a way. We've had female superheroes before, but Wonder Woman was the first one that really did it right. It just made a movie. It brought out all the characters of Wonder Woman from the comics, her innocence when she leaves the island, her interactions with the human world, and they didn't dwell on political points or anything like that. They stuck with character development.
It wasn't the fact that she was a woman.
No,
She was a superhero.
she's a superhero.
And that's how it
And
should
she
be.
was fighting on the side of good. And there was no real, there were some bad guys in it, but there was no real, moment in it where you felt she was overpowered or anything like this. In fact, they built up her powers over the time. The ending was a little weak with the CGI. I wish they would have done that a little different. But overall, the story arc going into World War, even though she saves the village. She runs in with them and they save the village, and after they cross the trench and all this, and the village still dies. So it was for naught. And nowadays, movies don't do that. Once you save people, they stay saved normally in most of the movies. And you look at, they bring out Captain Marvel next, and Captain Marvel is just overpowered from the beginning. At no point in that movie do you think she's ever going to be taken down by anybody. You're just wondering, when are they going to show her full power? And she just beats everybody up. That's not how you do a superhero movie. They have to have a flaw. Wonder Woman had a flaw. It was her innocence.
Okay.
she trusted people too much, and and she would step into danger no matter what without thinking it through sometimes. So she had vulnerabilities, and that's what I liked about it. And I think, unfortunately, going forward, 4, 5, 6, 7 years down the road, we're going to look back at saying that Wonder Woman is still the classic female superhero movie.
Yep, I agree. And I was skeptical about whether or not they were going to be able to pull it off before I saw that.
So was
movie.
I. But remember the trailer?
Pleasantly surprised.
When that trailer came out at Comic-Con, it was the #1 trailer of the Comic-Con. Like, everyone was talking about it. The bullets on the shield. Nobody was talking
I had
about
no
anything
interest
else.
in seeing that movie at all. Wonder Woman was always this freakishly uninteresting character for me. And when I saw that movie, I said, wow,
Yeah.
this is amazing.
Yeah. If only they continue it in Wonder Woman 2. Let's hope they do, because they didn't do it in Justice League. They filmed her poorly. So, well, there you go. Those are what we consider modern classics.
So
and,
if you have
our
a
reasons.
movie made after 1990 that you think beats all of these, then put it in the comments below.
Or at least 5 of the 6. Because,
You could beat Sharknado, I'm sure.
the Munchkins Take Manhattan would beat Sharknado as a classic movie. It's just,
Okay. What about Deadpool? Deadpool? Would you agree with Deadpool?
I would more than Sharknado.
All right, so I'll switch to Deadpool.
Too late.
Yeah, I win.
Too late. Mark Bales